So Kieran, Heidi is used all around the world by clinicians in many different regions, different accents, different terminology. How does Heidi handle all of those differences?
It's a great question, and I'm always happy to say that the answer is surprisingly well. So I think, again, going back to the sort of two types of model that we use. So the one is a speech-to-text model, which has been trained on sort of, I guess, dialects around the world, which means that I think it's just slightly better at picking up some of those terminologies, even if said in a very heavy accent. And we like to talk about how and me being a Scotsman, at least by background, the fact that the Scots managed to make use of Heidi and it can understand their thick Glaswegian accents, is proof that Heidi is able to capture that, even though it might not sound quite as clear and distinct as a central London accent. But I think the real magic comes in that it's not just the transcript that's being used, it's the transcript plus the large language model. And there's a big part of understanding the context of certain words in relation to the other words that have been spoken. So if you have a homophone, a word where it's, the model has thought that you've said one word, but in actual fact you mean something else. In the context of everything else that's been spoken about, in that transcript, it's easy to understand that, even though this has been mistranscribed, the meaning is quite clear because of everything else that surrounds it. In terms of how Heidi kind of manages those differences in sort of regional dialects or regional terminology, we've kind of baked in a few of those features into our memory feature, where you can go in and kind of set your setting for whether you want US English or UK English, what your preference for date formatting is. We've also kind of put in a word library to help sort of replace words where Heidi might constantly be misinterpreting a word and spelling it in a certain way, whereas you are quite clear that this is the spelling of the word in a particular country or a particular region. And we give users the ability to go in and say, right, this is actually the word that I want to be spelled here. Beyond that, I think templates are still a very powerful way to give that context. It gives users the ability to say, right, these are some of the treatment plans or medications that I commonly use. When I say this term, what I mean is this, and this is how it needs to be written out. So then it's often clear that even if somebody is using a term that might not be used in an American emergency room, if they're based in a Singapore GP clinic, if they use that term in their template very clearly states, right, when I say this is what I mean, they still get a note that ultimately has the terminology that they want to be
And what
used.
would you tell a clinician out there who's used to traditional dictation tools within their hospital or clinic, saying, well, what's the difference, honestly, here? I've used these, they don't understand me. What would you tell them? Apart from just try Heidi and give it a go, obviously.
Yeah, well, I think, again, the proof's always in the pudding, but a traditional dictation software, it's very much taking exactly what you say word for word and recreating it on the screen in front of you. Heidi is a level up from that. We're taking that word, understanding it in the context of everything else that's being said, whether it's between a conversation between patients or just a clinician presenting to Heidi. The rest of that transcript, the rest of that context is vitally important for understanding what's being said. And so, in a traditional dictation software, if it hears one thing wrong, it's because it doesn't know what the rest of the context is to actually be able to understand what the meaning of that word is. But when you put everything together in the context of a template and the fact that you are this type of clinician, it's much easier for the model to make sense that, that's actually what was meant in that situation.